Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I want to know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about, let's talk about, yeah. Let's talk about Conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host. And Conversations with Nicole is a talk show based in Tallahassee, Florida, focused on connecting the community through conversations. And today is what I call Mindset Monday, which is an opportunity for you, me, and my guests to chat about something interesting and intriguing. And today I have these wonderful three brothers who are joining me again. They were on last month. We talked about men hiding their pain. So we're back for part 2, Unseen, Why Men Hide Behind Their Pain, part 2 of this discussion. And this is going to be a great conversation. Y'all liked it so much that you said we needed to do a part 2. So here we are. I'm so grateful that they have found time to, out of their busy schedules, to come and chat with me tonight. So before I bring them on, we need to hear from you. We need you to like, we need you to share and tag a friend, because this is going to be a great conversation. But I'd like to hear from you. Let us know where you are tuning in from. Let us know. Put it in the comments, your city, your state, so we can give you a shout out. We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. And your comments are welcome. This is a safe space for us to engage and communicate with one another. So we definitely want to hear from you. Hopefully you all had a great weekend. I know it's been super hot here in Tallahassee, so y'all please stay hydrated and cool, as cool as you possibly can, because that heat is intense out here. I see you, Tracy Gole. Thank you for being here. Good evening. Good evening. All right. So I see others on, and I'm sure they'll be chiming in just a moment. But if y'all will, please like, please share, please tag a friend and tell them, join this conversation. All right. I'm going to go ahead and share my bios for my guests. First one is Mr. Nick Raines, who has earned his bachelor's in social work from the Florida State University. Go Noles. And let me just give the disclaimer. I got all Seminoles on here tonight, okay? All 3 of them went to Florida State. All right. And so he obtained his master's in social work. He is a licensed clinical social worker who has more than 7 years of experience in the mental health field. He's worked with adolescents and adults who are struggling to cope with adjustment disorders, depression, anxiety, grief, panic attacks, behavioral challenges, mood changes, trauma, grief, loss, spirituality-related issues, relationship conflicts, communication, and self-esteem problems. Nick is also an entrepreneur, the CEO of the Love Innovators Mental Health Counseling, a community advocate and public speaker. And he's also added author to his bio, and we're gonna have to actually have him come back and talk about his book. But y'all help me welcome my former singles mingle partner in crime, Mr. Nick Raines.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good.
For this conversation, I know it's going to be robust,
Absolutely.
and very, very full and rich.
Indeed. All right, Nick, tell the people, who is Nick Raines? Not what you do, but who are you?
Nick Raines, a proponent of everyone reaching their full potential, becoming the best version of themselves, because you are going to reach people that maybe I can't reach, Nicole can't reach, Antonio can't reach, Andre can't reach. So we need you to become the best version of yourself, because you have an audience, you have people that's looking up to you that need what you have inside of you.
All right. Love it. All right. Up next is Mr. Andrae Ransom, Andre Lamar Ransom is a native of Sanford, Florida, the youngest son of Alan and Kathy Ransom, graduate of the Florida State University, holds a bachelor's of social work, received his master's of divinity from Liberty University in healthcare chaplaincy, and he has been employed for more than 10 years at the Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, and he currently lives in Tallahassee with his wife and his daughter. Y'all help me welcome Mr. Andrae Ransom. Welcome, Dre.
Good evening. Glad to be with you again.
Dre is clean, boy. I told him he got on his purple for Purple Rain. I think today marks what 40 years or 41 years since Purple Rain was released. Is that it, Dre?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I did live in Bloomington, Minnesota in the late 1980s when my father was going to seminary. So do have ties to Minnesota. So
Okay, well there you go. Well, you are dressed for the occasion. We love it. All right, so Mr. Ransom, please let the folks know who is Andre Ransom, not what you do, but who are you?
I'm Andre Lamar Ransom. I'm the youngest son of Alan and Kathy Ransom. I am the husband to the former Angel Marie Owens, and I am father to Alethea Grace Denise Ransom.
Okay, well there you go. Well, welcome. So glad to have you here. All right, and then last but not least, Mr. Antonio Wyche. He is a licensed clinical social worker, published author on leadership, and a passionate advocate for men's mental health with over 15 years of experience in clinical practice and organizational leadership. He's dedicated his career to helping individuals, families, and communities thrive through emotional resilience and relational strength. Born and raised in Lake City, Florida. Now he's in Tallahassee. He also attended the Florida State University, Gold Nose, and is licensed in both Florida and Georgia. Currently serves as the regional executive director for an evidence-based therapeutic programs in partnership with the Department of Juvenile Justice and community stakeholders, where he leads a team of over 15 clinicians across Florida, Georgia, and Texas. He is also co-owner of Renewing Minds Counseling and Consulting Services, where he provides therapy and guidance to individuals and couples. And his work is grounded in the belief that emotional intelligence is the cornerstone of strong leadership, healthy relationships, and personal growth. Y'all help me welcome Antonio White.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Nicole. Thank you.
You're welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you?
Doing well, doing well.
Good, good,
It's
good.
been a long day, but I'm hanging in there.
Well, we glad you're here with us. So please tell the people, Antonio, who is Antonio White? Not what you do, but who are you?
Well, I'm God-fearing, fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm a husband, a brother, all of those things. But I like to call myself a believer of people because I believe everyone has potential. Everyone was created by God, and everyone has a purpose. Sometimes they just haven't figured out what that is yet. So my goal is to help find out what that is. So that's a little bit about me.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. All right. So we got a lot of folks that have chimed in. So far, only ladies. So far, only ladies. But that's okay. Y'all ladies, tell them in they need to be on here. So Sharice Du Bois, happy Monday. She's in Atlanta. Thank you for joining us. My sister down in Miami, good evening. She said, I don't know about how I feel about all these Seminoles. She is a avid Hurricane fan, okay? Yes, it's all about the U for her. So thank you for being here, Shay. Dr. Anika Fields is watching. Thank you for being here, Dr. Fields. We appreciate you. My mom is on. Thank you, Ma and Miss Tangi Jones. All right. Thank you for being here. And all right, Enigma. Thank you, E. He said the fellas are in here. Love it. All right. Represent for the fellas, E. Represent. All right. So before we dive into this topic, I want to read my disclaimer because I have clinicians on. I don't want anybody to confuse this for a counseling session. So all topics past, present, and future on Conversations with Nicole, informational purposes only. They are used as a diagnosis for treatment or an answer to any personal issues related to the topic before, during, or after the program. All right. So Unseen, why men hide behind their pain. Again, interactive live. So y'all please engage with us. But I wanted to give just a bit of a recap from our June 18th conversation. And if you missed it, you missed a good one. But just kind of real quick, high level, some of the things that we discussed were repression and suppression, the definitions of those. And sometimes we assume that men are hiding their pain, but really it might be repression or suppression. Sharing with the women in their lives, it might come back to bite them. And so that was a concern. And they feel the need to have to carry the weight for the sake of their spouse, their family. Maybe their feelings or the pain is invisible to them because they have hidden it for so long. Men don't know maybe what's going on within them physically, emotionally, in that there's a self imposed stigma. And this can be as a result of learned experiences and conditioning. And then one of the other ones was that men don't want to be perceived as aggressive, weak, unstable. And so they avoid situations where that might be the result or the outcome. So, again, high level overview, but all things that were really, really great points last time. Is there any one of those things that any one of you all want to kind of touch on that really kind of stands out to you?
Go ahead and Tony.
Yeah.
That's a long pause.
All right. Well, I would say maybe a recap of like the suppression versus repression.
Okay, let's do it because you were the one that gave us that one. So
Yeah, yeah. One thing that I see typically with men in general, especially when it comes to them coming to therapy,
Mhm.
is a mix. So we talked about suppression. It's a conscious awareness that I'm keeping something down. So if I'm angry, or if I'm sad, or if I'm grieving, as we talked about last time, you're consciously making an effort to stuff that underneath the surface. And I liken it to a beach ball that's stuffed underneath the water, right? You try to push it underneath the water, the more you do it, it's only going to pop back up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how does it pop back up with us as men? Anger, aggression, isolation. So that's how we externalize it. And then we have this idea of repression, which is a little bit more complicated, but it's still relevant. And I say it's a mix because repression is subconscious. You're not always aware of it. And suppression typically comes from some type of trauma-related experience.
Mm.
And this could be vicarious, right? So if I saw my dad not talk about his feelings, and then that led to fights, right, between my dad and my mom. Well, guess what? Right? That we don't look at it as trauma, but it is trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I've learned to do is repress those feelings that don't benefit me, but I'm not always aware of it. The body stuffs those things down because they're hurtful.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get into a routine of then not acknowledging those things. So like I mentioned last time, there's a difference between suppression and repression. And oftentimes society mixes those up. And most of the time, it's a mix. Men are experiencing both. They're not intentionally trying to stuff down their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
When they say, I don't know how to express it, they're probably acknowledging that somewhere deep down inside, I want to express it, but it's not allowing me to do that in the way that I want, right? So I wanted to kind of recap that from a more clinical perspective.
No, appreciate that. That's good. Hopefully that made sense to folks. Again, your comments, your questions are welcome. We got Charles Brown who just joined us. Thank you for being here. And Mr. Malcolm Peterson said, much peace and love. Thank you for being here, Brother Malcolm. We appreciate you. So anybody else feel led to recap any of what I mentioned in terms of what we talked about last time? Anything stand out? And it's fine if it doesn't. No pressure, no pressure. No pressure. Okay, cool. So I we talked about some questions earlier, and one of the things that I thought might be worthy of us exploring is the relationship aspect, right? Of why men hide behind their pain. We kind of touched on it in terms of one of the things is if they are vulnerable or if they are sharing with their partner, they feel like it may come back to bite them, right? And so they hold whatever it is going on with them, or they feel like they have to hold whatever is going on with them. They have to carry that weight for the sake of the family maybe falling apart or their mate falling apart, right? With women being, I guess, the more emotional vessels, or at least that's what we're told societally, correct? So Nick, I'm gonna pull you in because you are the love doctor.
Mhm. Okay, yeah. So good point, Nicole, and we did kind of touch on that. So I think a lot of times men, their emotions and them expressing their emotions sometimes, and the vulnerability has been weaponized against them sometimes. And
Mm-hmm.
so sometimes it may be used against them. And again, they may be reluctant to actually share how they really feel, because if I'm sharing how I really feel and I'm showing this level of vulnerability, how do I also protect and provide security at the same time? Right? Some men have felt like once I share my vulnerability and I open up, then now there's no security to provide.
Mm-hmm.
And now my family, my woman, my partner does not feel secure. So I don't really know how to do both. And once I do share this vulnerability and I open up, are they still going to view me the same way?
Mm-hmm.
Because it depends on where she's come from and how she was raised and how she's seen her brothers, her uncles, share vulnerability or were they vulnerable at all. She may
Mm-hmm.
look at this man as being different, may look at this man as being weak, may look at it as being too sassy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you may get that. And so sometimes men just hold it in because it's not a safe space for them or have not become a safe space. Again, and I always say if a man ever tries to open up and it's weaponized his vulnerability, it may be hard to get him to open up again. And then he may not open up with you, but he may open up with someone else. And that's
Mm-hmm.
an issue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm gonna pause right there, Nick, because I just want to acknowledge a few folks, but I'm gonna come right back to you. We got Miss Jamil Nicole on with us, who's here in Tallahassee, a clinician as well. Thank you for being here.
Jamil,
And Dan the man Richardson. Oh my goodness. I ain't seen Dan in I don't know how long, but thank you for being here, Dan. He said, "What's going on, fellas?"
what's up, Dan?
All right. And Mr. Jeanette down in Miami Gardens, thank you so much for being here. Michael Court just chimed in. Thank you for being here, Court. We appreciate
Mike.
you. Yes. All right. So the weaponization, and I really hope that my ladies are really hearing this, right? That's a thing. That's a thing. That's a thing. That's a thing. So like bringing it up and using it against the men, and we gotta not do that. Because that's a sure way for a shutdown, right?
Definitely. Definitely
I'll
so.
reiterate what Nick commented. What I find is, working with patients, is that the vast majority of individuals lack emotional intelligence.
Hmm.
And really, that's just the foundation of empathy. The vast majority of people, they hear to respond rather than hearing to intentionally listen. So we have a group of individuals who are lacking in emotional intelligence. So when someone is sharing their pain, someone is pouring themselves out, the other individual, because they don't know what to do with those emotions, they internalize it and make it about themselves rather than empathizing with the person that is being vulnerable at that moment.
Hmm. Okay. Very good. Thank you so much for that, Ransom. All right. Anybody else want to speak to it? Antonio, you're muted.
So yeah, I forgot where the mute button is. But
It's
um, but that's potent, Andre, because one of the first places we learn that, and where ultimately our kind of emotions are weaponized against us
Mm-hmm.
is in our own homes when we were younger.
Mm.
And whether it was, and I'm not saying everything, I'm not generalizing this, right? But that's where it starts. And then it's reinforced as we become older. So if we had a very masculine father and we cried or we got sad or we started talking about our emotions, they cringed up. I can't talk about that. Well, what is that about? And so it's not only weaponized, but it's seen as bad.
Mm.
And so when we start to experience that within our own relationships is even more potent, because in our relationships, we're supposed to have control. When we're kids, we don't have a lot of control. Our parents do whatever they want to do, right?
Right.
But when we're in a relationship, we're supposed to have control, or that's a perceived idea. And so when these things are, when we're shut down, or when it's weaponized, or when it's told that you can't do that because you're not a man if you cry, or men aren't supposed to cry, you're supposed to be there for me. They feel even more hurtful. And think about the whole conversation we're having. Men aren't going to acknowledge when they're hurt. That's not a word that comes out of a man's mouth. So how do we tend to respond? I'm just going to leave that there.
All right. So we'll marinate on that. We do have a question in the comments. Court said, what does that mean here to intentionally listen? I think that's for you, Andrae.
So to intentionally listen, in my occupation as a chaplain, our role is to listen 95% of the time when a client or a patient is speaking to us, and speak 5% of the time. So to intentionally listen, we call it leaning in. It's to actually hear and, to the best of our ability, understand what the person is communicating to us. And when you can intentionally listen, a lot of the times what the person is saying, you can find out what the underlying issue is that is causing an individual to have these emotions that are popping up. But, as I said before, it all goes back to empathy. Empathy, someone described it as, even though I may not understand where this individual is coming from, I'm going to do my best to try to look at it from their perspective, right? I may not understand it, but I'm not going to victimize that individual, or in other words, try to make them react the way that I want them to react, or how I think they should react. I think I used this illustration in the last live we were on. My wife and daughter, we were going out to eat. There was a guy my wife was driving. There was a guy that was behind us, and he basically cut my wife off. Me, immediately, because as a man, I'm the protector of my home, I was annoyed. I got upset. But my wife, she laughed it off. Like, it totally didn't bother her. So two individuals who experienced the same situation, but they looked at it from two totally different perspectives. And so I had to really think, like, why did my wife, not respond the way that I wanted her to respond in that moment? But it was about my emotions. I had to own up to what I was experiencing, and then not try to pass that off on her. So when we lean in and when we intentionally listen, it's not about what's going on with us or the emotions that are happening. It's really trying to look at it from the perspective of the other individual.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to add what Andrae is saying too, and I feel like one thing you can do when you lean in and intentionally listen is to actually validate. Like, I can understand how you feel that way. Making statements like that. Tell me more about that, please. Or just kind of going up for them, especially when a man, that must have hurt you. Because like Antonio said, that's a word a man may not use. But I may invite that and give that permission slip to use that word, use that language, and make them comfortable.
Okay. I hear that. Thank you for that.
And let me,
Go ahead.
I'll try to use another illustration. It's often, and Antonio brought this up about, our first experience with, emotions comes from being at home, right? So you think about a baby. When a newborn baby is brought home, and if we're going to be intellectually honest, when a baby cries, they cry for certain reasons. They either need to be changed, they're sick, they're hungry, or they want to be held, right? That's their form of communication, crying. The vast majority of people, if we're going to be honest, especially new parents, when that baby is crying, they're immediately thinking to themselves, how do I shut this baby up? They're not really trying to interpret, because when a baby is hungry, when a baby needs to be changed, when a baby is not feeling well, or when a baby wants to be held, they've done studies on this, their cries are different.
Mm.
And people don't intentionally lean in and listen to see what type of cry it is. They just want to shut the baby up. And that's what we mean by lack of emotional intelligence. A lot of people, when they're in conversations with someone else and they really begin to pour themselves out and strong emotions are emanating, we just want to shut them up because it makes us feel uncomfortable. Just like that parent, the baby's crying, it makes me feel uncomfortable. What's the quickest method that I can shut this baby up? And that's what a lot of people do in conversations. Because what they'll do is they'll cut the other person off, start talking about their own stuff. And so, as Antonio says, a lot of that begins at home for many people.
Absolutely. I think that that emotional intelligence is a very important concept and something that we definitely should possess, which is a bit more empathy. So thank you for that, Mr. Ransom. We got a few more folks that have joined us. I definitely want to acknowledge them. Mr. Warren Cave said, great talks, Pastor Andre. And Craig Henry is on with us. Thank you for being here. He said, great question. Yeah, Michael Court. All right. Lack of emotional intelligence, indeed. So again, relationships, right? We that's kind of where we where we started this, right? And so one of the questions is around maybe what needs to change. I mean, you talked a little bit about it, Nick, in terms of that safe space, but anything else that the women or family members can do to help support men that may be, and I don't want to say they hide behind their pain, but are having a difficult time expressing their feelings and their emotions.
So I feel like it has to be normalized. And the example I give is that, let's see, Keyshawn and also Kevin Warren and West, when they have those mental health, breakouts for the men, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the most vulnerability I ever see men share. But what I noticed is that they do a very good job of giving men a permission slip to share and be vulnerable in that space.
Mm-hmm.
So to take that same example, I feel like that if you're with your partner, if you're with your wife or spouse, it has to be normalized and it has to have a permission slip for that man to actually be vulnerable, right? It has not to be foreign for them. It has to be almost like it's cherished and valued when he does open up. Right? Like that is a great thing. And sometimes when a man open up, he may be holding you accountable, right? But we have to kind of get past that, because sometimes what happens when a man, when he opens up, as Antonio, I think Andre said also, when you don't know how to embrace that, you get uncomfortable yourself. And so when you get uncomfortable, you either bypass or dismiss the emotions there. So you can miss it. And then it starts a cycle for that man to feel like every time I try to open up, I either get isolated, punished, dismissed, which becomes trauma. So they go deeper into, as Antonio said, repression almost, right? Or suppression. So really have to be normalized and really welcome, right? Showing empathy, as Andre said, welcome in that I appreciate you. Like after the man expresses himself, telling him, I appreciate you opening up. I really love that about you, that you're able to express your emotions. That's giving him motivation to do it again and even to go deeper.
Love that. I'm taking notes. Just want you to know, taking notes.
Yeah, that's great.
Go ahead, Antonio.
Go ahead, Andre. It's fine.
No, you good.
Okay. Look, we all got some good stuff to say, so it's good. So I like what you said there, Nick, and I kind of think of. So I recently acquired some plants Now, I'm not a planner, never done it in my life, but one of my jobs sent me like a little small plant.
Okay.
And also got a plant, a bigger plant from a family member a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I overwatered it. Right? I oversaturated it.
Mm-hmm.
And it caused it to start to break off a little bit because it wasn't supposed to be watered that much.
Mm-hmm.
But when I took a step back and I started to become more delicate with it, maybe gave it a little bit of sunlight, not a lot of sunlight, tiny bit of sunlight, just open up the blinds a little bit because it's an indoor plant.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't water it as much. It started to grow. And once I saw that growth, I started to appreciate the growth and I started to pay more attention to it. Because if I paid more attention to it, then I was going to get it where I needed it to be, right? And that was optimal growth. And what Nick just said was beautiful in terms of that's how we should treat emotions.
Yes.
Right? When I see a person opening up, that's an opportunity. And that's actually a great thing. And I was going to say this, women shouldn't act as if they're the man, your husband or boyfriend, whatever, mom. Okay? You're not their mom. You're not supposed to raise them. You're not supposed to be, you're not supposed to do any of that. You're their spouse.
Wait. Ladies, I'm gonna need y'all to he about to rewind that, but I need y'all to take notes. Can you say that again, Antonio?
Yeah, so you're not supposed to be the man's mom or mama, as we like to say, right? You're not supposed to be the mama. You're their spouse. And so instead of raising, you need to nurture. Their mom already did that. Whoever raised them already did that, right? So they're supposed to be a man already. You can't teach them how to be a man, but you can nurture some of those components that you would like to see. Because being able to acknowledge how I feel is a great seed into optimal relationship growth. You can't have a relationship if there isn't some type of vulnerability. But I think someone mentioned it on your show before, all vulnerability means is opening yourself up for attack. That's it. If you look at the definition on Google. But because there's a risk of doing that, whoever's left in charge of that also needs to learn how to nurture that. And so I'm bringing that up because a lot of times as women, and there's a part for this for men too, but we're talking about women right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part for women that they try to raise and correct and discipline the man, and that's not their job. Their job is to ultimately nurture. But you have to be able to pour into that person in a way that doesn't oversaturate it. Because when you oversaturate it, it's only going to die. So I need to be delicate with it. Whatever that means for you, but I'm putting that out there because it's something that I see a lot too. And men have trauma for that. They have mother traumas that they project onto their spouses.
Ooh, yes.
I know that was a lot, but I'll leave it there.
Yes. So
just to piggyback off of that before you move on.
Okay, go ahead.
To emphasize what Antonio says, the Bible says that when God created Eve, he made her as a helpmeet, not a taskmaster.
That's it. That's the point. Did he just drop the mic right there? And ain't cracking a smile. Look at him. Oh my gosh, I can't with you, Dre. All right, so we are a little more than halfway through our conversation. For those of you who are just tuning in, I am on with Andrae Ransom, Antonio Wyche, and Nick Raines, and we are talking unseen: why men hide behind their pain. This is part 2 of a conversation that we had last month during Men's Health Month. And so we thought it was so good and y'all said it was so good that we decided to roll it back. So I'm super excited to have these gentlemen on with me. So we got a few comments in here. We got Dr. Willie on here. He said, good stuff, Nick. And come on somebody, which I think he was amen behind Antonio, and then he just did a mic drop with Dre. All right, we got Donda on with us. Thank you for being here, Donda. Donda said, taking those vulnerabilities shared and bringing them back up in disagreements causes men to also not be vulnerable also. Yes.
Weaponized, right.
Right. Yeah. We talked about that a little bit earlier.
So I wanted to share, I'm gonna say my own research, and I know I could step on some toes here, but this is my own research and my own practice. All right, let me preface that and say this.
Okay.
One thing I've been doing, I can call it a longitudinal study that I've just been kind of like making note of. A lot of times, if a man tries to open up to his woman, and she dismissive, she weaponizes his emotions, he tries to be vulnerable, and like she said, she brings it back up, like Donda said. I realized that men are more prone to emotionally cheat. They say physically cheat, but I just been noticing they've been emotionally cheating, because what happened is I do a lot of couples. So I hear the man speak, and most of the time they say, I want to bring my spouse, I want to bring my wife in. And most of the time when they bring their spouse or wife in, that man has been dismissed. She's not listening. She's not emotionally intelligent. He tries to be vulnerable. She makes fun of him. And again, it's not right to cheat, but I say he's more prone to do it because what he's looking for is someone just to listen to him and actually validate his feelings. I had a client that actually, he did physically cheat, but what it was, his wife was actually doing all those things and symptoms. So the woman he was cheating with, he didn't even want sex from her. He just wanted to be validated. But because he was put in that position, he was already there. He went through with the act. But what he really wanted was validation that he wasn't getting from his wife.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that, Nick. We got a few comments. Cherie said nurturing goes both ways, but I definitely believe in nurturing. Okay, thank you for that. Marlene just joined us. Thank you for being here, Marlene. And Enigma Sepp said men need the space to be themselves, whatever that is. That's the peace men seek. Would y'all agree?
Yeah, I want to go back to that previous comment where it said the nurturing goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. We need to define what nurturing is for men, though, because I don't think that's defined. And I'm coming from a societal standpoint. Because if I say, well, my father was nurturing, that doesn't sound like a masculine man. Now, I'm not saying that it's not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying from a societal standpoint. But if I say my mom was nurturing, that sounds too different. That sounds different, right? But I think about this idea of nurturing, while that comment is sound, it's not okay for men to be nurturing societally. So I think as a society and as men and as women, we need to ultimately define what that ultimately means. Because when we talk about relationships, I'm thinking of relationships, romantic relationships, but I'm also thinking about relationships within the context of parenting, friendship, like all of those things. So I want to throw that out there because that's a good point that I'm still kind of thinking about in terms of how men tend to nurture.
So let's draw the viewers in. What do y'all think? Do you think when you think of men being nurturing, do you think that's odd or abnormal? Let us know in the comments. Is nurturing or being nurturing just kind of reserved for women or for the mother? Let us know. Let us know your thoughts about that.
I mean, to Antonio's point, you don't even hear people describe their man as being nurturing. That's like an anomaly. You don't really hear that. That's not a normal even statement that you hear women even make. Not saying that he's not nurturing. It's just that's not even a normal conversation.
Okay. So Talithia just chimed in. She said, as a woman, I don't want to be nurtured. I nurture my kids. I want to be loved, provided for, and protected. Okay. Thank you for sharing, T. She says she doesn't even know a nurturing man. All right. Thank you for sharing, Talithia. Marlene said, not at all. It may look different, though.
So I want to deal with the elephant in the room once you get through with the audience's responses.
Go ahead. Nobody's responding. Go ahead.
So the elephant in the room is this. I'm reminded of the words of the Trappist monk Thomas Merton. He said, man is not at peace with his fellow man because he's not at peace within himself.
Mm.
And man is not at peace within himself because he's not at peace with God. So the issue is that we have a vast majority of individuals who have no idea who they are. I cannot understand who I am apart from understanding my creator. So how can a man or a woman bring peace, nurturing, love, etc. into another individual's life when they don't even know who they are? So an individual's understanding of self has to come from their understanding of their creator. And then what does it mean for me to be me, defined by my creator? So for example, the age-old question, what is the responsibility of man? The answer to that is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. And from that, I'm going to understand who I am and then what my purpose is. And then when I walk in that, I have that peace that surpasses all understanding. And then when I'm in right relationship with God, I'm in right relationship with self, and then I'm in right relationship with people.
Wow. That's I mean, you are spot on, sir. That whole lack of knowledge of self thing is huge. E said, preach, preacher. All right. And Marlene said, my husband brings his tough upbringing and law enforcement bravado home. Luckily, I'm not a cuddly, touchy-feely type. You know, that again, that's that emotional intelligence piece. At least that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, but she said luckily, but it's almost like if she was, it's almost sound like she's saying she'd get hurt.
Right. That's what I got too. She said his love is telling me that he'll take a bullet for. Wow. All right. Dre, they chiming in, boy. You got them riled up. So LaShawn is on here. Come on. She said, okay, Dre. Anika, Dr. Phil said, teach Dre. And Jamil, okay, Dre. So Dre, they chiming in. All right, Warren, how do we break some generational and societal acts of hiding their true feelings or pain for the nurture to begin until the identity of who they are is known to them? That's a good question.
Yeah.
So, Warren, that's a great question.
It is.
And I'm gonna take it back to, let's put it in these terms. Christianity, just put it in terms that we can all understand. That started, the concept of Christianity started with one man. So often in our society, we say, how do we break these generational curses? How do we start to do things differently as a society? And it's my belief that we can't do that from a macro perspective in the way that we wish.
Okay.
How we break it is we break it individually.
Right? So start with self.
Start with self. And Dre made a great point. When we think about, when we say ego, like we throw that word around a lot, but all that means psychologically is self. That's it. Right? I have a big ego, but I have a big sense of myself, whatever that means. So when I think of this idea of this macro, which what you're speaking, societal, every change started with one individual. And so what I'm more concerned about in my life as I've kind of matured and become older is I'm more concerned with how I'm responding and how I'm teaching the people in my circle to also respond. Now, obviously they're in control of their own self, but how am I making a difference in my circle? And I think, so to answer your question, I think where we start is with us. That's where it's always started, right? And ultimately impacting our communities at the meso level, and then the macro level, we got to do some work there. But I think it does start with us.
Yeah, agreed. Warren further said, I don't neglect generational curses, but I believe it can be overcome by positive generational choices.
Yeah. And Antonio is right. And I want to go back a little bit. I think Warren also, just knowing where it started from, is that, men don't cry, as a boy, you told like, toughen up, men don't cry, stop all that crying, you acting like a girl, right? So when you hear that as a little kid, and then you go through your teenage years, adolescent years, and then you become a man, that could almost become the man identity, right? And so when a man starts being vulnerable, he look at it like I'm actually failing as a man. He don't look at it as I'm being human. I'm actually failing based on what I was ingrained in me. I'm failing as a man when I become vulnerable, right? So that becomes his identity. So that's when we get back to the repression and suppression part. So now I start using my emotions as armor. But the sad thing about that, my emotional armor can also become a prison for me. I don't even know how to get out of this.
Ooh, my Lord, I don't know if y'all felt that the way he put that thing down. Say it again. Wait, hold on, Nick. Hold on. You got to say that one again.
So a man starts building this emotional armor to kind of hide his feelings, hide his emotions. But sometimes that emotional armor can become his emotional prison. So he don't even know how to get out. Even the ones that's close to him that's try to bring it out, it's so repressed, so down deep, he don't even know how to open up no more. To go back what Andrae said, so now, if I don't have emotional intelligence, I'm stuck in that prison. I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to come out, right? Until you have a breakthrough, some type of therapy or something like that. But it's like it's deep down ingrained. It's like emotional prison.
Ooh wee. Ooh wee. All right. Yeah. So lots of comments. Marlene, that's how men turn into pressure cookers. Talithia, emotional armor as a prison. That's good. Nicholas, sir. So mic drop. Jamil. E is snapping. LaShawn said, phew. My sister said, geez, that part. We're gonna get to your question in just a minute, Cork. All right. Talithia said assignment plus alignment equals purpose, and that can be separate in connection to relationship with one another, with another rather. Let's see. And Warren said, Antonio, yes, generational choices. How do you get more men to open up to the generational choices? Men's mental health classes help.
Yeah.
So do you all think that and Nick, you already kind of alluded to this, but having those quarterly sessions, and maybe they need to be even more frequent than quarterly, right?
Yeah, I think what the answer one where I think a lot of this is education. I think it started with psychoeducation first, a lot of that, right? And a lot of times when I was on those panels, that's what I would do because I want to make it more comfortable for men to open up. But I also want to give an insight of what's going on when you don't open up, right? But I said this before. So whenever a man does not open up and he finds it hard, he's actually can go into, especially let's just say emotional situation, he goes in a fight, flight, or freeze. So here's the amygdala part of the brain, what it protects, that goes into high alert. Okay. Yeah. So that means that why that's going into high alert, your frontal lobe, which is the thinking part of the brain, shuts down because it's not needed. Okay. So to go back to the emotional intelligence part, once I able to name my emotions and I can talk about how I feel, I'm no longer coming in, I'm not in fight or flight no more. My amygdala turns off and then my frontal lobe turns back on. And now I can actually talk about what I'm feeling, right? I'm not in fight, flight, or freeze no more. I'm not in protection mode. I'm actually in speaking mode. I'm in decision-making mode. So I like to kind of bring that. And so that's where you're supposed to be. That's the most intelligent Andrae been talking about, right? So I wanted to give a little insight of what's going on in your brain. That's why it's so important, as you mentioned, Nicole, to use that emotional will. Because once I do that, I'm no longer in protection mode. I'm verbalizing how I'm feeling. I'm communicating. And once you do that, you are inviting the other person in to how you're feeling. So now they can help. But if I stay in anger, I'm trying to stay in control. How can they help you? Because when I go in anger, I'm still in control. I'm trying to control the situation. But once I become vulnerable, I'm letting the other person in to see how they can help.
Yeah, no, that's good. Dr. Kendra Mitchell just joined us. Thank you for being here. Dr. Willie said, we often talk about how complicated women are, but the truth is men come with their own complexities shaped by generational habits. To truly help men grow and open up, we must meet them where they are and address the influences of the generation that molded them. Ooh, yes.
Yeah. Dr. Williams, man, you hit on something, because a lot of times when I'm getting inquiries into therapy, one of the main things that they talk about is help me to understand why I do these things.
Mhm.
That's the main thing that they tend to report.
Yeah.
And so you're right. I think it goes back to some of the generational, some of the patterns,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things that ultimately influence how we respond. Those things don't happen in a vacuum, right?
Yeah.
They're all shaped on how we've been raised or conditioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm going back to Court's question, which is, but should a man cry as much as a woman? I think Ransom would have something to say about this. Hopefully he'll join us in a moment. I think he would, because he's been on my show talking about grief. So we gonna circle back once we can get him back on.
I think I just want to say this. I think that's a good question, Mike. But I think that's based on environment.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really based on environment. I think that's based on
I'm laughing at the comments. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think that's really based on environment, and the foundation has been allowed and set for that man to be comfortable to cry. Right. No, I really do think, though, you have to be careful, because it's that I think men are always dancing that line. I think it's always a balance that a man always thinking about. They just can't cry like a woman. They gotta say, am I crying too much? Am I not crying enough? It's just that we got to toe the line. So I think
Craig said no! Exclamation point.
If they're gonna start looking at you different, the answer is no.
Talithia said, what does that mean, as much as a woman?
I know, right? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But you know what? I think Craig hit on something, and I'm gonna just be honest with you.
Wait, Corey said, should masculinity look different than femininity? It does.
That's it, right? Yeah. So I think it should. That's why men aren't built to cry as much.
Cork is stirring the pot. He's stirring the pot, y'all. Don't fall for it. He is stirring the pot.
I've met Mike before, but it's a good question. It's relevant.
It is a good question.
But some might say, well, men should be able to cry as much as women, right? Depending on who you hear it from. But I think it does come from a stand, because men also, their tear ducts are built differently than women's. So they're not even. No, I'm serious. There's research around this.
You made it up, Tonio.
No, they do. They have less tear ducts than women do.
What?
So we're not even built to cry as much as women are. I'm not making that up. Y'all can look it up.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Y'all can look it up.
I'm gonna have to look it up. All right, so I would be considered a hard woman. I don't cry like that. I had to learn to cry. Listen, when Talithia turned 40, she started crying about everything. But that's a whole nother story. All right, Felicia, that is a stereotype. When men really face the music, Buffalo tears fall. Okay. Dan, Nick, that's so true. But what if men are already living in a prison and don't even know it? The goalpost continues to be moved without understanding. Ooh.
Yeah, so Dan, you're right. So a lot of times in therapy, the first thing I do, I start doing attachment theory, because I like to go back to how they was raised as a child, right? How they was actually nurtured or not nurtured, how attentive their parents were to them. All that stuff matters, right? How much there was appraised, how much affirmation, how much validation they received, how many times did they tell them they was proud of them? Mm-hmm. And that all goes back, because your attachment is developed within the first almost 18 months, right? Mm-hmm. That's when it's kind of developed. So I kind of go there, because when they go back to that question, I guess Warren had asked that question. Where does it start? Like Antonio said, like when they come, like, why do I feel this way? Kind of help me explain. That's why I do attachment theory, because I want to go back and show them this is where it started, right? And that's why you even asked that question, because you don't even know where it started. Mm-hmm. This is where it started, right? So I think we have to go back sometimes to how we was raised in the environment we were in.
Absolutely. LaShawn had a really good point, which is what I'm hoping to get to, like, very, very soon. We need men and women in the room together. We need authentic, open conversation. Let's allow our human to show. LaShawn, I'm working on that. I'm working on something in person.
We need a referee for that one, Nicole, but we'll
That's all right. Listen, y'all know how to referee. Let's do it. Warren, mental health, when not treated frequently, sometimes leaves a strong man's house open, and the enemy sometimes can come back 7 times more. Scripture. We need Keyshawn and Kevin at least monthly. All right, well, you done put it out there, so I know that, I don't know if they're on here, but I'm sure folks that are friends with them will let them know. And then he said that Great question, Michael Court. But the last couple of years, I cried in worship and when teaching more and when I'm compassionately ministering.
So I want to touch on the topic. Sorry for the disconnection
That's okay.
earlier. I want to speak on the topic of crying
Yes.
as it pertains to men. And I
Mhm.
touched on this the last time. You know, I stated before, the greatest man to ever and will ever walk the earth, Jesus Christ, we're told that he wept. So if crying was not beyond the greatest human being the world has ever known, then it's not wrong for a man to be able to cry. Not only that, we're told that David, who was greatly and dearly beloved, a man after God's own heart, all throughout scripture, we're told that David did what? He constantly wept.
Mm.
So to weep, to cry, is to be human. But more importantly, it's demonstration of vulnerability. And there are many individuals, not just men, but women as well, who have a hard time with vulnerability. And that's exactly what God wants from us. He wants us to be vulnerable. So when a man tells me that he can't cry in front of his woman, what that tells me is he doesn't understand how to be vulnerable, because in his growing up, someone wounded him or there was some type of trauma related to that. And so he suppresses that. So crying for a man, that's something that should be foundational to you as a human.
Okay. So Court said he wept one time. It's only recorded one time, Court. Oh my goodness, I can't. Y'all are off the chain tonight.
So let me,
Coach Anna, hold on. She said he wept, showed compassion and empathy. Thank you for being here, Coach Anna. Go ahead. What you got, Antonio?
I will say this, following up on Dre's. So I do agree that it's normal for a man to cry.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you have a man who's crying every day, they're depressed, or they're just crying for no reason, that man needs to get checked out. Because I have had clients where they overly do that, and that can be tied to a mental condition.
Mm.
But there are times where you need to cry. So for me, when I'm in worship or when I'm going through something, I cry. Now, my faith has made me more vulnerable and open to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's allowed me to open that up. I'm no longer suppressing that. But I'm not going to cry for every situation. I think you have to also kind of keep that in mind as well when you have so if you're saying you have a crier boyfriend or husband who does it frequently,
Mm-hmm.
I would look at that as very concerning, because there's something that they could also be suppressing, even though they're externally crying.
Got it.
And that's more dangerous than not crying at all.
And I would say too, also, to piggyback off of that, and let me clarify, it's with any other issue. If it affects your daily activities of living, right? If you're crying and then you can't go to work, you're crying, you can't take care of your kids, you're crying, you know, it affects your daily activities of living, then yes, then that is an issue that needs to be resolved. Also, let me point out the fact too, and I look at this from also a different perspective in having a daughter who is neurodivergent. Also individuals with those type of differences, because there are times when she weeps and it seems for no apparent reason. And in private conversations with her, she says, you know, Dad, I don't want to cry, but for whatever reason, no matter how hard I try, the tears just come. And I remember going into an autism group online and just reading all of these different responses by men and women who were adults. And they said the exact same thing that my 10-year-old daughter said. They said, you know, oftentimes I'll be in class when I was in college. I just started crying. People, my classmates would look at me like, what's going on with them? And it was something that I could not control because it was related to how my brain and my emotions processed. So I think we need to be careful on how we want to strategically put people in boxes of what they should do and what they should not do. I think we need to be cautious in that area. But yes, once again, if it's affecting your daily activities of living, as with anything, you know, that needs to be looked at in more depth.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to piggyback on what Ransom's saying also. It's just like, it just sounds so limiting for a man.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm talking about I can't cry, it's certain emotions I can express. It's certain things that people are used to in society that has to be exhausting for a man. It's so limiting. And I just feel like if you're not able to express, and God created us to express every emotion, but if you saying I can't do that, I really don't have the freedom to even live in this world. So limiting, right? It has to be exhausting.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you for that, Nick. We got lots and lots of comments. So Coach Anna, peel the onion back so we can, and we can often find the root cause. Agreed. Let's see. Cork said men won't open up in mixed company that way. They will amongst other men.
So I met Michael recently, great guy, by the way.
Yeah.
We talked at a church. We had something similar to the men's mental health check-in.
Okay, yes.
And I just said the same exact thing to another colleague that he just said. Men, I'm gonna be honest with you, men do open up in front of other men. I've seen it.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm not generalizing to all men, right? But I think that's a space where they can be themselves. They can talk about things that relate to men. But the moment they are in mixed company, sometimes that wall comes up. I think that armor that Nick mentioned. And while that is related to each individual, I think it is a phenomenon that we have an opportunity within that, obviously, of having more of those men's mental health check-ins. But we also have an opportunity, I think someone else mentioned, to also have a mixed crowd of men and women. Because I think there's an opportunity in that as well. So he's absolutely right. We do open up with other men at times more than we do in mixed company.
So yeah, to your point, Antonio, I mean, i.e. the barbershop, right? That's when you talk to your barbers. I call them therapy techs, because they almost doing the intake for me. They can tell me what he's dealing with. I was like, hey man, he need therapy. I was like, all right, so tell them to call me. They like therapy techs because they get the intake. They get all the information first what this person is dealing with. Because in a barbershop, most of the time it's mostly men, right? If it's not a unisex barbershop, and that's when you see those men open up. So I do agree with Michael Cork and Antonio. And I think it has a lot to do with, if I got a group of men and we're all men and we understand that we're being vulnerable in this moment, if I have ladies sprinkled around, before I open up, I'm checking to see if I'm going to be judged. Checking to see, are they going to be receptive to what I'm doing right now? I got more people I got to actually consider before I even open up. So I agree with that.
Okay. I appreciate the honesty. So let's see. We got, again, lots of comments. Let's see. Felicia, speak on it, Ransom. Jamil, because if you cry more than her, something has been going on, and immediately roles should shift. Instead of him protecting her emotionally, she should become his protector emotionally. Protect that space, sis. All right. Craig, if a man cries every day, what is the baby supposed to do? That man definitely needs counseling. Thank you, Craig. Coach Anna, the body will respond to our internal need to release whatever is happening internally. Yes, thank you, Coach Anna. Jamil, supporting him, suggesting therapy, being more observant through that season is key. Thank you, Jamil. Enigma, he said, I'm reminded that my dad, rest in peace, whipped me for crying at The Color Purple. For that, I tried to be more emotionally intelligent as a parent. Okay, got it. Thank you for sharing that, E. LaShawn, put me on the planning committee. I meet with a lot of community brothers on a regular, and they are very open and transparent. You are on record, LaShawn. I will be calling you this week. All right, Court. Great chat, fellas. When the company is mixed, most men turn to protector and women turn to nurturer.
Okay. And to piggyback off of that statement, I want the women who are watching, listening, it says about the Proverbs 31 woman, it says the heart of her husband does what? Safely trusts her. In other words, a woman has a responsibility to carefully guard the heart of her husband. So the question for each individual household, for that husband and that wife, is what does that look like? What does it mean? How are you to respond and react when it comes to the heart of your husband safely trusting in you. Because I think that's what the crux of all that we're talking about in these dynamics, right? How do I be vulnerable? And how can I know that when I'm giving you something that is so precious, I won't be wounded in the process? Because for a lot of men, that can be something that they may never even bounce back from.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Ransom. I want to just kind of like echo what he's saying, like, because in the Bible it talks about the woman is the rib of the man, and if you know what the rib does, the rib protects the heart, right? So the woman is not to be up under the man's foot, she's not to be up over his head, but she actually protects his heart. So that's what the rib is. So what Ransom said, when he opens up, she's supposed to protect that space for him. That's why he called her the rib.
Okay. Nice. Y'all are on it tonight. I'm telling you, this is a really, really, really great conversation. But we are past our time. So I don't know. Is this worthy of a part 3?
We just keep coming back, Nicole. We invite you, right?
I know. This is good. This is really, really good.
Well, I'm sorry, Nicole. It's good because I think it's good to decipher some of these things that we're talking about, like even a man being a protector. Because men feel the need to be a protector, that's also costs, and it costs the lives of their spouses. When men felt the need to step in when they were, and I think Dre mentioned it, when they were cut off in traffic, men got out of the car, ended up getting his wife killed because he wanted to be a protector. So we need to redefine what this protector is, because I think we have an ideal understanding of it, but we don't have a practical understanding of what protection means.
Woo. All right. They are saying part 3, part 3, part 3. Yes, it is. Part 3 in order. Part 3. Cord, ribs, and some women cause high blood pressure. You know what, sir? Get off my lot. Foolishness. All right. So I want to be respectful of y'all's time. I really do. Craig, I think this is a great idea. Quarterly session with the gentlemen. We can do that. I actually be on monthly myself, but we can do quarterly if their schedule will allow. Auntie Sean gonna help get part 3 started. I got it. And E is laughing at the high blood pressure comment. All right. So we gonna wrap this up. So I'm gonna give you each opportunities to give closing remarks and tell folks how they can connect with you. So we're gonna start out with Mr. Ransom.
I can be reached at andre.ransom@tmh.org. And, what I emphasized the last time, I'll emphasize it again. When you leave tonight, when you leave today, you shall not allow booger sugar to have dominion over you.
That's it, Dre.
He be so serious when he look at
It's so serious. He ain't cracking a smile. The booger sugar. All right. Thank you, Dre. Next, Mr. Nick Raines, please give us some closing remarks and let folks know how they can connect with you.
I think it's important for men to open up, but of course you have to find that safe space. So I totally understand. But definitely want to work on your emotional intelligence. So when you find that right person, that right crowd, you're able to open up. Again, don't allow your emotional armor to be emotional prison for you. Right. And women, if you're with a man, when he opens up and he's vulnerable, cherish that space, encourage that space, motivate that space, tell him you're welcome anytime to open up. And I appreciate you opening up. You can catch me at loveinnovators@gmail.com. Yeah, that's pretty much it. My phone, it's on the screen. I enjoyed this conversation.
Okay, good deal. Thank you so much, Nick. Appreciate your comments. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Antonio Wyche, closing remarks and tell folks how they can connect.
Yeah, first of all, we need more Black male therapists, but we're on track to doing that, because I think therapy, we need to normalize that, because having a space where you can talk to another brother about situations that also impact them is super important. But more importantly, the person that you reside with at your house, that you spend most of your time with, that person is the person that needs to be nurtured, whether woman or man, right? And we talked about what that nurturing means for a man. So normalizing some of these things, because if we don't normalize it, and I think one of the guys mentioned it, how will we change society if it's still so taboo, right? So as we normalize these situations, we start to change the world. But we can still hold on to our masculinity without sacrificing that nurturing part. So you can reach me at renewingmindsccs@gmail.com.
All right. Very good. Thank you so much, Antonio. Appreciate your comments. So y'all please connect with these brothers. I got other folks that say they want to be on the planning committee. Y'all see Court. He got his name on the list, y'all. All right. So remember that. All right. So folks are chiming in. This is awesome. I do hope this did benefit our viewers. And if it did, please let us know in the comments. And please let's keep this conversation going. Share it with somebody that wasn't listening or tuning in that you think may benefit from it. And LaShawn and Cork, I'm gonna hit y'all up this week about getting this co-ed conversation going. All right. Shayla, Booger Sugar, I was not expecting that. Yes, I know it throws me off too, Shay. Frederick, awesome. Court, great. Y'all some sharp brothers. Thank you, Malcolm. Great information. Great job, gentlemen. Dr. Willie, wonderful convo. LaShawn. Coach Anna, she said, with compassion for what he is feeling, and equally, a man will meet his wife in that same space, love him, care for him. And when a man is mature in his own faith, he will return and protect his wife and household. Well said. Thank you, Coach Anna. All right. Dan, awesome. Nicole, great input, fellas. Be well. Shayla, great convo. Coach Anna, great convo. And Dr. Fields, this was great. Wonderful. Thank y'all all for tuning in again. I always forget to do this, but for those who may be new to the platform, I invite you to subscribe to Conversations with Nicole. We're here Mondays and Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Focus on mental health and wellness in Black and Brown communities primarily. And so we invite you to subscribe, because subscribing is supporting, and we need all the support we can get. So thank you, my panelists. You were wonderful as usual. I appreciate your insight in this great conversation. Y'all be safe, and we will see y'all next time. Good night.